Thank you for the opportunity to join you this morning for your inaugural virtual Chamber Community Forum. First, let me say how much I appreciate the extraordinary work that Lauren and his team and Sriraj Patel and his Chamber Board are doing throughout this crisis. As today's event description read, disruption is a constant for business, yet few, if any, could have imagined the global earthquake that was 2020. Well, no more accurate words could have been uttered in relationship to 2020. In Manitoba, things had been going so well until the pandemic swung through on its second wave, and now suddenly it's a very different ballgame. So I'm sure that you're all aware, for the foreseeable future, we'll find ourselves in a transitional phase where we'll have to live with the virus in our midst, without any absolute guarantees, managing the risks involved carefully and responsibly, while increasing our economic and social activities. With some regional exceptions, economies of all provinces are under color-coded plans for day-to-day activities. While all of this is happening, our collective focus needs to turn towards what will be one of the greatest challenges of our lifetimes: how to recover economically from the damaging effects of COVID-19. Canada and the world have deep economic wounds that require a coherent and comprehensive plan to make sure that we get out of this massive downturn. Governments must be as agile and determined in pursuing economic growth as they've been in responding to the virus. We'll need to push for renewed economic activity that will create jobs and generate the revenue needed to offset the high levels of public spending during the emergency. It's important that, as Canada's largest business network, we focus on the fundamentals, because we know that any true recovery must be business-led. And that's where the Chamber network comes in, and where the Winnipeg Chamber can play such a critical role. For the first time in decades, business and government are focused on the same thing: how to get Canadians back to work safely and start growing our economy again. Canadians cannot return to their normal lives until they're gainfully employed. We need to work together creatively and collaboratively. As Winnipeg's partner in Ottawa, we're working with our network to find solutions that will benefit all Canadian communities. The Chamber Network's perspective on the ongoing evolution of support programs is not only listened to by government, but it's also acted upon. We've had, and we continue to have, a meaningful impact. Now, there's no doubt that this is a tough time for chambers of commerce, and even tougher for our members. Businesses on the main streets of Canada have suffered and continue to suffer. Some will never open again. It's said that Canada faces a K-shaped recovery, with some businesses, including many in high tech, doing very well, while others have a long and uncertain road to recovery ahead of them. Dealing with this reality will require a targeted approach to help the most vulnerable Canadians and sectors survive the pandemic's lingering impacts. Businesses in the restaurant, accommodation, arts and entertainment, tourism and retail sectors have borne the brunt of the job losses and of business closures during the pandemic, and they're the ones most at risk of permanently closing during a second wave. Emergency government support programs that target sectors and businesses that rely on physical presence for their operations must be a key pillar of any economic plan. How will you reach out to those sectors within your membership? What help will they need? One thing that we know for sure is that our governments and businesses must work together. As a priority, we need to see a plan for how Canada can move from simply reacting to the pandemic to actually managing it. The pandemic will continue at least until a high percentage of the population has been administered an effective vaccine. For the foreseeable future, we're going to have to live with the disease in our midst, and protracted lockdowns are unsustainable both socially and economically. We urgently need a coherent COVID-19 management strategy based on solid data and sound science to allow Canadians to safely resume their normal lives as rapidly as possible. In addition to being data-driven, the strategy should target our resources at the areas of highest risk and build resiliency so we can bounce back quickly when problems occur. Now, chambers can help to bring some light to a dark time. We all know that Canadians' businesses need their chambers during the good times, but we need to have a lifeline when times get hard. This is when we demonstrate our worth one member at a time. So as you meet today to talk about your chamber and what it will look like for the coming years, There are changes inside your city, your province, and across Canada and around the globe that will determine the shape of things to come. These are things that are within your control, some of them, but others are not. And here's some thoughts of some things that might come into your discussions today. First, the idea of proximity. Has COVID-19 brought customers to shop and consume closer to home or pushed them further away? The turbocharged digitization that's occurred during the last few months has meant that many businesses have pushed online to develop the capability to sell products and services around the corner or around the globe. And still, the large players push even farther ahead with their products and services in reach. So how do your local businesses compete? This may be both the time of greatest threat to them and their greatest opportunity for growth. How do you help them seize this moment? Second is agility. The Winnipeg Chamber has reshaped itself over the last 9 months to respond to its members' needs. How will it continue to do so? What new needs must the Winnipeg Chamber respond to in coming months? Is the Chamber prepared to move quickly if and when it sees change in what its members require? Third is connectivity. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all that much more connected. The ability to rapidly convene meetings and determine outcomes means that organizations like chambers have to be hyper-connected and work in collaboration with other stakeholders. As a community chamber with engaged members like those gathered for this event today, I'm sure that you're already well connected in your community. But during this time, the ability to convene groups has also been extended well beyond the traditional organizations and their meeting agendas and events. The ability to bring people together is now in the hands of the Zoom account holder. In the face of this new competition, how do you ensure that you continue to be the voice of business and continue to convene around the virtual table on issues that matter most to business? And as we've all seen, COVID-19 has cut down the opportunities for face-to-face meetings. So how do you continue to be connected with your members during this time? Now, particularly during crises, it's important that the Winnipeg Chamber, as part of the larger chamber network in Manitoba and the wider chamber network across the country, continues to be the trusted voice that can add valuable insight for governments. When governments plan, it's vital that a business lens is placed on their decisions. The Winnipeg Chamber's members can provide that critical perspective. The ability to tap into the business community and the credibility that you bring will be absolutely key to governments in your city and in your province making the right decisions. Our collective efforts to share the business story and to help shape the future for all Canadians are particularly important right now. The foundations are being laid for what our economy will look like post-COVID-19. With vaccines potentially widespread by the end of 2021, the hard work of getting Canada's economy ready for a long, difficult, but essential recovery begins now. The ways in which you can capture the data, the ideas, and the stories from the Winnipeg community will prove invaluable to Mayor Bowman and Council, to Premier Pallister and his team, and to our federal government. We are always better together, and that's why your meetings today are very important, not only for how you'll shape a future-focused organization for your members' benefit, but also for how you position your organization to inform the business decisions that will determine your community's destiny as a slice of the recovery of the whole of Canada. Well, best wishes for your important meetings today. May they be full of healthy dialogue and productive outcomes.